Good evening, everyone. This is TakeBack.org. I'm Sheila, and today we have a very special program about an upcoming event that's going to happen on May 8th, 2018 at Three Rivers Community College in Norwich. It's all about commemorating the life and memory of a woman named Henny Simon, who was a Holocaust survivor and a friend of ours here on the set from Hadassah and throughout the community, who shared her history of the Holocaust with everyone in the community, especially with young people. And as a measure of our respect for her and not to ever forget her, we're going to have an annual remembrance event where we bring together other people in the community who shared all of her values, her anti-violence, her tolerance values, her belief in equality, anti-bullying, and freedom and respect for everyone. So I have three special people here today to help us talk about this new event, and they are Karen Blousine. Hi, Karen. Karen is the president of the Eastern Connecticut chapter of Hadassah. And in the middle of our wonderful set, we have Dianne Daniels, who is the president of the Norwich NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we have Judi Deglin, who's also an honored member of Hadassah and the chair of our book clubs, which is going to be an important part of our program. So let me start with you, Karen. Tell us, how did the idea to do this Henny Simon Remembrance program start? And while we're talking about her, can we put her up on the screen to show everyone Henny Simon? Go ahead.
Henny was such a force in our Jewish community, our Hadassah community, and the overall community. She lived in Norwich, I believe, or Colchester. Colchester. But she was all over New London County, especially active, as you said, with teenagers. She did speeches in schools, and she had a group project in her home where just a few students came to her home. And that, I'm sure, was a very powerful experience, because Henny was committed to the idea of never forgetting the idea of the Holocaust. And the idea kind of grew, what did they call it, organically? And first of all, we got the idea, we want to honor her in some way. But this first event of an annual series, we found that it was very important also in inclusion in the community to honor someone else who had passed away very close in time to Miss Simon, and also represented the values that Henny espoused. And Dianne can tell us more about that person, Miss Jackie Owens. But Hadassah definitely felt that we had to get going on this idea. And as we met in groups and talked about it, this event evolved.
Right. So can we put the photo of Henny up on the screen now, together with the photo of our honoree with her, who is Jackie Owens. And so here's Jackie. Both women were lost to us this year. And Dianne, tell us something about how you got involved in this project with us, so that we're honoring Henny and this annual event in her memory, and doing it, bridging the two communities, the NAACP community with our Hadassah community in Eastern Connecticut.
Well, I thank you very much for having me on the show today, and I'm saying welcome and hello to the ladies who I've met through the meetings. Mrs. Owens was slated to be honored along with Ms. Simon, and when I got the phone call to say that they wanted to include Miss Jackie, Mother Owens is what we called her, in this celebration of Ms. Simon's principles and her life and what she stood for, I said absolutely yes, without question. There are people who come through our lives and they teach us so much. And Ms. Simon and Mother Owens are two of those people. I knew Jackie through my work with the NAACP. I've been a member of the branch for well over 20 years. She was our branch president for 30 years, which is unprecedented in a whole lot of community organizations. People don't stay connected to organizations that long, let alone remain the president for that long. She's an absolutely amazing woman. Not big in stature, but she had a huge heart and a heart for the community. She lived in Lebanon, Connecticut, but Norwich was her adopted hometown. We loved Miss Jackie so much, and no one I've ever spoken to ever had a bad or even a neutral word to say about her. Everyone she met just fell in love with her, and she had this quiet strength. She wasn't the person who put herself into the spotlight. She was often pushed there by those of us who loved her, because we would say, Miss Jackie, you've got to go, you've got to be out front. She was more likely to put someone else up front and push other people forward. And isn't that what mothers do? They take care of those who depend on them. They push everyone around them to exceed their potential. And they pull out of you things that you didn't think you were capable of. And what I've heard about Miss Henny and what I've read about her says that she was that exact same kind of person. Brought out the best in the people that she touched. And it is such an honor on behalf of the branch to be included in this celebration with such a great lady.
Okay. And what are some of the special projects or things that Jackie did as the president of the NAACP? I'm sure through her lifetime,
Yes.
she really lived through all of the great civil rights battles. Can you tell us something about that part of her life?
Well, she was very strong on voting rights and would encourage people across the community to get registered, be educated about what was coming up, the connections between the local, the state, the regional, and the national election process, and the important issues that came up throughout the political season. The NAACP is not a political organization. We don't endorse candidates, but Mother O is what I called her. Mother Owens would always encourage us to make up our own minds about who we were going to support, and then when we decided to benefit those people not only with our money but our time, because quite often your time and your presence is as important as the money you donate, if not more.
Can you tell us a little bit something about her personal life? Did she have a family? How did that work?
She had probably one of the biggest extended families in the Norwich area, because most everyone who met her ended up calling her Mother Owens. But she had children of her own. She was married for a very long time to Mr. Burton Owens, and she referred to him. He predeceased her, unfortunately. And she talked about him. Every once in a while we would hear about him. She had sons, Burton Jr. and Albert, whose family is still with us. And I did not get a chance to meet Burton Jr., but I knew Albert Owens, her son, and he thought the sun rose and set around his mother's head. He was a great example of her values and her presence. He was always willing to help anyone who asked. She has grandchildren that are still in the area, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe her granddaughter Olivia just recently gave birth, so now there's a great-grandchild who will carry on the legacy of Mother Owens. And plus, she has children, like I said, all over the community. My own two kids, my son Ron and my daughter Ariana, considered her their grandmother, as did a lot of kids in the area.
Does her family history go back to the South, to slavery, or what is her history? I'm
thinking that it may, because Mother Owens was kind of funny about this. Nobody really knew how old she was. We didn't really find out until after she'd passed away. We thought she was a certain age, and then we find out she was a little bit older. She came from the state of Wisconsin and still has family there. She has a sister who still lives in this area. She didn't talk a lot about her upbringing and if she'd experienced anything untoward as a young woman or as a child and a young woman, but she had enough experience with the negative effects of prejudice and racism that it kept her fired up for the work that the NAACP does. And she passed that fire along to every one of us that was connected to the branch, that came to the activities. It was so critically important for her that we know what we were about and that we stay focused and stay on message and not get distracted by the things people will sometimes throw at you when they're trying to shake you from your firm foundation. You can't be shaken off that firm foundation, and with the example of people like Mother Owens and Miss Henny, we can keep on going in the way that they taught us to go.
How old was she when she died?
Well, now, I always thought she was 80, but it turns out she was a little bit older than that. Her actual year of birth was 1931.
Okay.
And we thought it was a little bit later than that. But, you know, ladies, we have that little tiny bit of vanity sometimes that we don't exactly need to know. Everybody doesn't need to know when we were born.
Well, I just
and so
would
she
say,
kept that along.
As a dear friend of Henny, we did celebrate her 90th birthday over a year and a half ago. So she was 91 when she tragically died. And although she was 91, I think everyone would agree who knew her, she didn't look a day older than, what, 70 maybe, whatever.
75.
She talked about how athletic she was as
Well,
a woman.
and this, her athleticism, her strength, her power, she was a tall woman. She was an athlete as a child, and that really helped her to survive the Holocaust. She was in that teenage year group where she had the grit, the power, the courage, the strength to be able to survive the concentration camps and to make it. And that stayed with her, that fierce power as an individual stayed with her. And so she probably had a lot in common with Jackie. I know that Henny would talk about losing faith in God, in the power of God after what happened in the Holocaust. Did Jackie ever have bouts of doubt, seeing the inhumanity to man, seeing the fact that race relations are still problematic in this country?
I don't think so. If she ever had a doubt, or if she ever had her faith shaken, we never would have heard about it. She was always, her faith was so strong. And I thought of her as Mother Owens because she was like a mother to me. But there's an honorific title that is given to elder women in the Black church when they are setting the example, when they're teaching and giving others the example to follow. They are labeled as mothers of the church. She was indeed one of those. She very much loved her church family, and her faith sustained her. There were very rare times that she would say, I'm just tired, and she would kind of despair a little bit, you know, about some of the things that were going on, and then she would pick herself up. She'd get that infusion of faith from her faith community, from her family, from the wider Norwich community, and she would renew her strength, and she'd pick things up and keep right on going.
And we have to remember that with people of their generation, for many years, people didn't want to talk about the horrors of the Holocaust.
Absolutely.
Maybe some in your community didn't want to talk about the horrors of slavery and segregation and Jim Crow that affected millions of Black Americans and is still part of their history today. We still haven't overcome everything today in this culture. But what was so amazing about Henny is that when so many other people of her generation who were survivors did not want any part of talking about it, back in the 80s, her husband, Robert Simon, encouraged her to start speaking up. And with his help and with the help of other people in the community, she opened up and she realized how much she had to contribute to help people learn the lessons of the Holocaust. And that was became her mission for the rest of her life. And so how would you describe Jackie's mission?
I would say that the NAACP's mission of equality for everyone, that everyone be treated like the human beings that they are, regardless of the color of their skin, that everyone has something to offer, something positive to offer. And that was one of her great powers. And I won't call it a secret power, because she made no secret of it. She pulled the best of you out. Things that you didn't think you were capable of doing, she would encourage you and tell you that yes, you could do it. And you wanted to because of her. Because she said you could, so you believed. Even if you didn't believe it for yourself, you believed it because Mother Owens said so. Okay. And she blessed so many people with that particular form of love. That's what it was. Yes. For her, was a form of love.
So we're going to call the program Parallel Lives Bridging Communities, so that these two women who played such an important part in the community, we want to bring everyone together to honor the values that they stood for. And as part of our program, which is going to be, as I mentioned, Tuesday evening at Three Rivers Community College in Norwich, we've also incorporated a book, a novel, into the program. And now I'm going to turn to Judi, who is our book club leader for the Hadassah chapter, and tell us about how we decided to make a book part of this program and how that's going to work.
I think it was a matter of timing. I happened to come across this book or become aware of this book around the time that we were beginning to talk about how we were going to honor Henny. And it turned out I was made aware of this book because one of the co-authors is a college friend of mine who lives in California, and she writes under the name JJ Gesher, which is a pseudonym for her and Joyce Gitlin, who is a friend of mine from college, and her co-author, Janet Fatal. And they have written screenplays and for television and the movies, and they've done some directing of television and movies. And this book turned out to be something that when I read it, I immediately thought of Henny and of how she, when I came back with my poster from the Women's March, I had people autograph it with what their feelings at the time, and she just wrote in her beautiful handwriting across the bottom, treat everyone equally. So this is a short novel about an Orthodox Jewish young man who puts his family on a bus to go visit other family members, and he's off to play basketball, and the bus is bombed as part of a terrorist attack, and he loses his wife and 3 small children. And his response to this is ultimately to walk away, get on a bus, and he ends up in predominantly black rural Alabama and is taken in by a church there. And it's how he eventually is able to reconnect with life through the music of that church, and through remembering what the music of his own religion meant to him. It's a lovely story. It's very short, and I thought it would fit in very well with what we were looking to do in this program. Okay. So we're hoping to do programs, some reading book clubs at local libraries, bring people together to read the book and talk about it.
And there is going to be, on the afternoon of our event, on May 8th, in the afternoon, at Three Rivers at the Lifelong Adventures and Learning program, right, they're going to have a book review session on an hour bridge. So people can come to that if they're part of the Lifelong Learning group, and then come in the evening to our event. So Karen, what else are we going to have? We're going to have, of course, honoring the
We're going to have the reception.
The two women. That's
going to be starting. We're going to have music and different types. And Dianne and again, Hadassah and NAACP coordinating. We'll have music. We will have, I guess you would say, testimonials. Is that the fancy word for it? In other words, there are people whose lives have been touched by these two women will be speaking. And especially, we're going to have 2 youths, one from NAACP and one from Henny's programs, we hope. So some of the young people have graduated and are off and attending college other places, so we may not be able to get one, but we're working on it.
Right.
And then there will be speeches also by people from the community. Romana Primus, Mrs. Romana Primus, who is the president of the Jewish Federation of Eastern Connecticut, got it out, and she's also very involved with the Strocklitz Holocaust Resource Center, and the center is in honor of her parents. We'll be talking about this, the center and how Henny also worked with people at the center and shared information. And let me think, what did I forget? Did I forget anything?
Well, the Holocaust Resource Center, which was established in memory of Romana Primus's parents, Rose and Sigmund Strocklitz, because they were Holocaust survivors, and good friends of the great Elie Wiesel, who we lost a few years ago. Henny was very active with the Resource Center, and they helped send her out to schools and to speak to various groups. And we're hoping to get a young person, someone who, as you mentioned, was impacted by her experiences, by her speaking, and hope to get a young person to tell us about that. And for Jackie's part, we're going to have Dianne's daughter do that, who was affected by Jackie's life, and because we want to carry those ideals down to the next generations, and we want to bring more people to our event and get the younger generations involved. So we're going to do that. Okay. We might be able to have a short talk from one of the authors of the book, I believe.
She will either be, she's looking forward to either coming or participating via Skype.
Wow, that would be great if we have the author of the book. That would be excellent. And I think we're also going to plan, I don't know if we have a date yet, there's also going to be a joint meeting with the NAACP chapter and the Hadassah chapter to get together and talk about the book also. And Judi, you'll be part of that. Do we have a date for that yet, or we're still working on that? We're still working on that.
I think Faye is going to help.
Right.
With that.
So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.
And then in your work, Dianne, you are also a pastor, aren't you?
I'm in training to be one.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I am. I'm in my second year of seminary, and sometimes you feel that call, that push toward ministry, and you're not quite sure it's really me? And then things start happening in your life and serendipities occur, and you realize that, yes, that call is for you. And I have to say that when I told Mother O that I was going to be entering seminary, she clapped her hands and she smiled and she hugged me and she said, "You go right ahead." She says, "You're going to be great at this." And there are days when the reading feels like it's too much and the responsibility feels like it's too much. And then I remembered, as she told me, she said, "You can do this."
Now, you in school right now?
Yes, ma'am. Right? I am in an online program through the Star King School for the Ministry. I'm specifically studying to be a Unitarian Universalist minister.
Oh, wow.
I've been a member of the faith for over 20 years and just found my home there, my spiritual and my physical, my heart home is there, and I'm very much enjoying it. I'm working harder than I've worked on anything else in my life so far, except maybe the NAACP presidency, but I'm enjoying every minute of it because I'm learning so much, and I just can't wait to get out and share it with everyone that I can.
Okay, that's great. So we want to let everyone know that this is a very important project that we're doing for May 8th. When are we going to start? At 6:30, I believe, in the evening.
I believe
6:30
or 7.
At the three.
We'll
it's going to be free
encourage
of
people
charge
to
to
come.
everyone in the community.
No
free
charge.
of charge. We'll have some refreshments, but we want to bring the community together. But we also want everybody to know that Hadassah has a lot going on in the community in terms of our American affairs, our outreach, of course, with Israel. And Karen, just give us a little brief on some of the activities that we're doing in the community besides this Henny Simon and Jackie Owens event?
Well, I'm thinking right now of advocacy because we will be planning a day in the district when legislators come home, shall we say, and they are available to speak with their constituents. Hadassah has a program where we meet with them and discuss our issues and zero in on things that are currently important. For example, right now, gun legislation.
Right.
And other things, too. We always support women and children. We support Israel. And we have policy statements on many issues. And our book club often is in conjunction with another organization in the community. And let me think. Oh, and we are having a very interesting program at the beginning of April, which builds on something that we did last year. It's called Remembrance of Your Childhood, if I remember correctly. And it's going to be a very informal program. People are encouraged to bring some item that would remind them of their childhood, or it's a Jewish event, so there's food involved, and so it will, or something that reminds them. I definitely am going to try and make this one kind of thing that my grandmother made, and it was my grandmother who didn't bake much.
Okay.
And so, so we're constantly bringing people together.
Right.
And remembering and...
Great. But the hot issue now that's
Right.
Hadassah is sending out, and I'm going to ask you, we're talking about initiatives on gun safety, gun control measures after the continuous horrific tragedies that we have in this country. Is the NAACP doing something in that vein?
As an organization, the NAACP has guidance from our national chapter and the leadership at that level. We are very concerned about the amount of gun violence that's going on right now in the country. And it seems that no community is untouched. I want to encourage people to keep in touch with your local and your state and national legislators. Let them know what's on your mind. If they only hear one viewpoint, that's the one they're going to think is the most important.
Right.
So it's even more important now that people raise their voices. And if you're not liking who's currently in office, then now is the time for you to get registered, get educated, and when the time comes, get out and vote. Primaries are coming. If someone doesn't make it through the primary system, they won't be available to vote in November.
Right.
So you have to support your people right at the ground level, otherwise they may never get to the November elections.
This has been great. We have to just put up one more time Henny Simon's photo and Jackie Owens' photo. Can we have them both up? There's Henny.
Such a pretty lady.
And a reminder for May 8th, Tuesday evening at the Three Rivers Community College in Norwich, Connecticut. There's Jackie Owens. And we are inviting everyone in the community to come. And I want to thank Judi and Dianne and Karen for helping us tell about this program, and we hope to see everyone there. So thank you so much. Good evening. We'll see you next week on takeback.org. Thank you.